Um, Delighted to present to you uh, these two poets for our evening session. Both our poets this evening are perhaps very different poets, but where their work converges is at the so-called altar of the classics. Calvino said, Italo Calvino, the Italian writer, said that a classic is a text that hasn't stopped saying what it wants to say. That explains the classic survival sometimes over thousands of years. Vivek Narayanan and K. Srilata are both interpreters, retellers, or rather translators of ancient texts. So translation for both of them, I would say, is an act of retelling and interpreting a text that is submerged in the sands of time. Maybe we can start with Vivek's work first. I have been familiar with Vivek's writing for over a decade now. There's a tightly woven textile, almost textile finish to Vivek's writing, which gathers thread and seam from multiple traditions. He combines the intimacy of the lyric form with the vast scope of the impersonal epic. We know that he did that in After, which was his retelling of the Ramayana. Vivek's style is also, I would argue, polymorphous, which is, there are many different kinds of shapes in his writing. So I invite Vivek to come and read his poems. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and it's been a great day at the Bangalore Poetry Festival, a polyphorous day. The past couple of books, as Aishwarya mentioned, I found myself working in the space between translation and poetry, and I'm not interested in translation so much as like an exact or faithful copy, but as a kind of energy that mixes with and disrupts the writing self. And the previous book After, which was a kind of engagement with Valmiki's Ramayana in Sanskrit, there I really found myself trying to write in a space where the distinction between translation and original writing would completely disappear, that between translation and improvisation. This book, Kuruntokai in its mirror, it worked out differently. For one thing, I was really done with the epics, so I wanted to know how to do small, short poems, and so I chose ancient Sangam classic anthology called the Kuruntokai, which is an anthology of 401 short poems between 4 and 8 lines in length. And I just working with these poems, translating these poems, I can't tell you how life-giving it's been, and how much these poems, I found, when I studied short poems, even Emily Dickinson or many others, right, that they found a way of kind of containing a vastness in a very short space. So the way that this seems to be working out is differently from After, in that it's a parallel practice. So I have been translating these poems from this anthology, and at the same time I've been doing my own poems to kind of match or respond to them, right? And so the Kuruntokai, many of you will know it. through A.K. Ramanujan's first book of translations, The Interior Landscape, which was very influential. My versions take a different approach from Ramanujan. Part of it is that I try to follow the contours and the line counts of the poem as well, and I obviously very fascinated by the poem's ability to say so much in fewer words. So the way that this book works is that it's a facing pages sort of format. And on the left-hand side is those sort of close-fitting translations from the Kuruntokai. And on the right-hand side are my own poems, my own improvisations, energies that flow through you. I suppose you know what it means to read the Kuruntokai today, and that's the mirror. And so there are many different ways of reading this book. You could read just the poems on the left-hand side as a series of translations, or just the poems on the right-hand side. Or what you're going to do is kind of like a dual channel work, if you like. And I'm going to just kind of flip back and forth. What should I say? What else should I say about the Kuruntokai? I think of these as, you know, they have no interest in religion, which I like, and they're erotic poems, or they're about kama or eros, kamam or eros in all its complexity, its ambivalence, betrayal, predation. You know, they have also a dark side to them, these poems, which people don't realize. But they're always, in a way, from the perspective of the powerless. They advocate for lovers. They advocate for lovers whose love is not approved of by their families. So some of them are about, you know, sympathy for these lovers on the run. Some of them are also even coded messages, like, you know, come and meet me at midnight, that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the left side, and then the right side is mine. So just skip through here a bit. Hurts my heart, hurts my heart. Eyelids as if scorched by tears endured. Quietening, quietened. Our lover. Disquietening. Hurts my heart. The plane moves through air, a hand without a body. The bird eats time. Cities fast below us, and we alone remaining awake, restless like prophets, drowned in a sea of unmaking. The sky's reflection, torn in so many places. Who do you know now, intimate thief? Clouds have sported on the public square. The midst grows last. The gist of speech has hollowed, unhumbled. Cannot open mouth but for croak. Mind's eye blank as a window. Where is the grief you promised? Some of these poems are for great patron like Evie, and of course poets are always asking for money in these poems. Lost their Evie, poor lute-slung bards, poor like the grass, it is said, without a headpiece of flowers. The heart lives through despair, house by the tree full of light, and the smell of wild jasmine. So many dark curls. Who's she to us? Fortune teller woman, her solid long curls, chank-shell beads on a string. Fortune teller woman, might you sing a song? He, the solid high hill, in that song you've sung. No one sees the war from close. To murder myself in mordant mirror, and if the mirror be a symbol, where it cuts is in the past and in the future, an anagram of absenting. My mother, your mother, whoever that might be, my father, your father, how are they related? And I, and you, how do we know each other? Like red earth and fallen rain, love broken, our heart stuffed by itself meld. But I'm a vessel and carry our language. Ours could be mine if mine weren't ours. In the imaginary forest, meeting by moonlight. Blossoms of the black-limbed Vengai tree, fallen on a thick stem. Fat little tiger cub at the forest's dark heart. At night, with him, a secret meeting. You're no good at all, white moonlight. Along the old bus route lay the bones of the city, dreams of its terminus, all of us, to be let in the gate by nightfall. I remember the house and the one who lived there. I remember that apartment and the stairs that led up to it. If love ebbs, and at midnight the hard fallen rains still sound inside the cave for him, oh, will on our side the connection fade? Wild dog from the hunt recovers buried leftovers. Wasps like wild jasmine swarm the watting damp. That with bangled arms to eat with us, she might come herself. Poor girl, who in my heart abides. Bangles on arms, a sign of elopement. Interloper, land leaper. You whispered into early morning stirs, and by the time the late rising confused cockerel had crowed, gone. How long have I lived here since? The trees with their scaffoldings of snow, a slow clock. On the cruelest of screens, one below the other, messages seen but unreplied to. I'm here, and my innocence carries unceasing hurt from the seashore grove. Man at his own town's got. Secrets turn gossip on the village square. Thinking means it burns inside. Not thinking turns it measureless. Doesn't it make you suffer, that sky-touching desire? He lacks honor, that man with whom we joined. Beaten into innocence, far tamarind on a field's edge, that a poet's lies are sworn testimony. Who left a crumb train on my desk? Never at morning shall they arrive. Like cluster bright sheafs of Malabar lilies are the red arrangements of your comb, O rooster, In the house, at night, at midnight, hunting rats, there's a baby wildcat. May you become its lasting prey. May quick punishment befall you. Long water and fertile village, the man stayed, and from a sublime dream you woke us. Saturnine is our gloomy god of agriculture. Do the trees of your land always speak with such frankness? Come from the past by living through it. Now at your station along walls with their beaks of stillness. Birds and mammals, mired and lonely, as if out of nowhere, disconnected evening. Many hurrying through the colony gate. Urgently they call, anyone else coming in? They're not coming, my friend, the one we love. Found the smokeless streets, wandered down those for a spell. Wells we washed our clothes at, which names were appropriate against the scooter's skeet. Whatever words used will negate, just as a leaf to a tree is apparent, just as it's so far to go, just as it's so far to go to find a home you won't come home to. Salt merchants skirted the wide expanse of it, like a ruined village, an overgrowth of ome trees. If, as you say, it isn't sweet, can it be sweet, O great one, for those alone in the house? This next poem was a favorite uncle of mine who died, who passed away, and he used to feed the peacocks on his balcony every night. The peacocks on the balcony bleating for the morning feed, and he no longer there. Who walks that space now? Jets that have made the sky so lonely. Darkness solidifies in cool, wet depths of shadow. White sand like heaped moonlight, a wing. That the flowers in the grove of the black-branched punne tree are lonely. If he hasn't come in a boat, hunting many fish are my people. Safety is the language of closures. My era was an era of closure. My ear was an arm of disclosure. They leveled the past to make place for themselves, and that lonely place was then a shrine to mutilation. So, So there's a trope, one of the conventions, right, is that you're stuck somewhere, you're longing for your lover, but your heart can travel, right? Your heart can get up and travel. So this is one of those. Cut from conches, smooth and shiny bangles, loosen every day on the limb, unsleeping, eyes wet with aloneness. Stuck here, we'll escape to over there. First, rise up and live, my heart, before the hemp champlets of the Vadagars, beyond Katti, honorable land of many spears, further into the country of unknown languages, thinking how to reach the place where he is. Marguerite is a daisy, marigold a virgin goddess. Spar is the crackle of speech in the town he's from. Forget what they'll say, those who come to hunt and those only numb. Peoples fall asleep to annihilation. Fearing scandal, desire grows tired. When the censure subsides, it's shame. The big elephant bull snags a branch that doesn't touch ground because the bark holds its splintering. See that, friend? He's eaten my innocence. On a wide open green field, we'll imagine all of us have come to protest, to stay, to unsettle, to settle, to resettle, to never rest for the violence that covers violence like a veil. Memory fuels newer flames. Shoulder to shoulder, let the rain join us. Kente fish dove deep, taking for a heron the startling form of a lotus against the sky. In fields and in gardens, the kanchi trees of his town, if one poet's a liar, that makes all of them. They're like thieves to the ones you left. If love ebbs, and at midnight, kamam yamatu, the hard rain sound into the caves, vittarakatta yambam, wait with stone-clean bones for the boy that ate forgotten fruits. To have known him is to have unlearned the giant and dreamless sky. Two more. Okay. I've got about 1 minute. Okay. No one else there. Sorry. Remembered, didn't I? I remembered. Thought about it, didn't I? Thought about it a lot. And was very confused, wasn't I, about the nature of the world? Like the high flood that touches the long tree branch then recedes, such great desire here finds an end. That I should corrupt my sacredness in a meeting with him, node as an entanglement, a lump of flesh, many borders crossed with the visa of the heart that travels and never arrives. Light haloed the Sufi's tomb. On the Yamuna's bank, wind-touch reeds feared the pacing sun. That I can't see you is not the only proof.
Thank you, Vivek, for that reading. I wanted to take off from something Vivek said in his sort of prelude to the reading. This idea that there are many versions of a text, and we also saw that this idea in the way he has worked out the translation of Kuruntokai. So I just wanted to read this fragment by the 18th century German poet Hölderlin. He says, "Being at one is godlike and good, but human to human, the mania which insists there is only the one country, one truth, and one way. one could add one text, one ur text. So on that note, I wanted to introduce Srilata's work. In her introduction, in her introduction to the book Footnotes to the Mahabharata, her recent book, she emphasizes upon the importance of retelling, and says, shaped by generations of poets and storytellers, the Mahabharata lives and breathes in these retellings. Its constantly evolving nature means that you can never hope to catch up with it fully. So retellings not only give life to the text, but the text, through its retelling, also gives life to us in an existential sense. If we are to consider myth to be sort of like a structure that organizes collective experience beyond history, and is also shared by people. So Srilata in Footnotes perhaps gives us a feminist retelling of the Mahabharata by focusing on minor and major female characters. And her text is also, in a sense, a comment or a footnote to the mainstream transmission of the Mahabharata. It's the form of the dramatic monologue, which is to say the human voice, and speaking in the human voice as if one were being listened to by another, that forms the sort of main backbone of a text. And yes, I look forward then to her reading of Footnotes and to listening to this sort of symphony of voices that she's put together. Over to Srilata.
Or such islands in the midst of the horrors that visit us, that we humans inflict on one another. Also, I think the Mahabharata is about the war and its horrors, the full spectrum of that. So maybe it's important to put one foot in front of the other, to do what one can do, not given to despair and paralysis, to continue to feel with all of your being the terrible things that are going on. It's from that place of vulnerability that I bring you this work. I started working on Footnotes to the Mahabharata at a point when I had just decided to end one life, a full-time career as an academic. So I could reclaim, I told myself, some time, some mind space. That ending felt a bit like a suicide at the time, and it was in that liminal space in which this book somehow took shape. I spent some of that time reading, for whatever reason I don't know, retellings of the Mahabharata, of Parva, Rendamuram, translated into English, Yajnaseni, Yuganta, and others. And slowly I began to ask myself, what if I wrote poems using as a base these retellings, these wonderful spin-offs? And also further to that, what if I wrote them slipping into the skin of the women in the epic? What if I wrote in their voices, in the voices of their other women friends, Sakhis? I was fascinated by Pratibha Rai's portrayal of young Draupadi as a scholar poet in Yajnaseni, and I wondered, where did that young Draupadi disappear, and why? Were the connections between her life and the lives of so many of my contemporary women especially, were those connections really less slender than they appeared to be? It had always been a point of concern with me how creative work plays out against the ever-present background dynamic of class, caste, and gender, how insidiously it enables some and disables others from having access to all that it takes to be an artist: time, space, money, education. It set me thinking about my own life too, for nothing in my life was arranged so I could slip effortlessly into a writing life. In 2022, the India Foundation for the Arts awarded me a project grant to support the research that has gone into the making of this very slender book and for the larger process. The work itself had many stops and starts, and I will not go into that. But each time I returned to the poems, it was, of course, a different set of poems and a different me returning to it. And the poems had many different points of origin and different births, just like the Mahabharata has had innumerable births. I became, if you like, an archaeologist of character as I climbed deeper and deeper down into a rabbit hole or a maze, depending on how you look at it. So retellings, stitched together from retellings, is what this book of poems really is. I'm not a Sanskritist, so let me start from that disclaimer, and I'm not really invested in the idea of the original text either. And also, there are more poems abandoned than are gathered here in this book, but I suppose that's how it goes with so many books. Footnotes to the Mahabharata comprises 5 poetic sequences which explore the interiorities of Alli, Hidimbi, Draupadi, Gandhari, and Kunti. They are, most of them, written in the form of dramatic monologues, told in the voices of the Mahabharata's many characters. There is a Sakhi or a Tori, a friend, who listens to the heroine speaking her mind. Sometimes the Sakhi speaks back to the heroine, and these are other poems by themselves. The poems borrow from the idiom of Sangam poetics and from haikai forms. Many poems actually open or conclude with a haiku, which sort of links and shifts to the main block of the poem. It hangs like a pendant from a necklace, so to speak. I chose to open with a sequence based on Alli, a character exclusive to the Tamil Dravidian tradition, not on the map of the mainstream Mahabharata, and that's where I'll start my reading too. Alli, by way of very brief background, is a fierce warrior queen who reigns over Madurai. She's found and raised by the childless Pandyan king within the petals. She's found within the petals of the Alli flower. Alli's refusal to have anything to do with men is legendary. There is a phrase in Tamil called Alli Rajyam, so I think Tamilians in this audience would recognize that, the rule of Alli. And yet Arjuna tricks her, takes her against her will. Says the Pandyan king to the queen, more son than daughter. You raised this daughter of ours to be a warrior, and now she won't look at a man, you complain. But isn't it thanks to her, more son than daughter, that we have our kingdom back? Quit complaining and be glad. Our Alli can do better than a man. What the men said about Alli. This is what they all said. Respectable men, pious men, men with beards, men with smirks. This is what they all said behind her back on the streets of Madurai. Look how she's fallen, our arrogant Alli, they said. We saw this coming, they said. She who thought she was as good as a man is just another of Arjuna's wives now, they said. This is what happens to women who grow too big for their boots, they said. In the end, our Alli was easy to seduce. Says Alli to her friend, it's to myself I belong. Might as well accept your lot, you say, make peace with things, learn to be a woman, give up this foolishness. Alli, of what use are bows and arrows when Arjuna himself is yours? Whose side are you on, Tori? His or mine? It's to myself I belong, not to men who take me against my will. And this has nothing to do with karma. So don't sell me that story. Tori, after all that has come to pass, do you really expect me to become one of Arjuna's wives? Dark night, the crescent moon still sharp as a sickle. Dark night, the crescent moon still sharp as a sickle. Hidimbi. Bhima, as you know, slays the Rakshasi Hidimbi's brother Hidimba and brings Hidimbi home to Kunti. And despite the sort of selfless manner in which Hidimbi serves Kunti and the other Pandavas, She's perceived right through as less than human. And when the Pandavas leave the forest for the village of Ekachakra, Hidimbi, who's pregnant with Bhima's son, is not allowed to accompany them. She raises their son Ghatotkacha on her own. And years later, we know that story. Ghatotkacha is sent for so he can fight on the side of the Pandavas in the Kurukshetra war. And he's, of course, sacrificed. I mean, he sort of dies in the war. They say that I give off a certain animal smell, that I'm too much, too loud, too dark, too muscular, too wanton, that I'm a sorceress and a thief, that if only I had thought to look in the mirror, I wouldn't have dreamt of a Kshatriya man, that a Rakshasi like me should know better, that good men should guard themselves against creatures like me, that trapped by the likes of us, they lose themselves. Palash flowers, biting my lips until they turned red. Palash flowers, biting my lips until they turn red. Beloved, much was said on the morning they left. We can't possibly take her with us. It's unthinkable. Bhima, be reasonable. Son, your time with her was borrowed time. In time, there will be other women. You can always visit her when the fancy takes you. She will soon be a distant memory, take my word for it. A warrior must know when to move on. Don't be such a crybaby. But she is with child. Mother knows she is. She served us well. She wasn't bad for a Rakshasi. May you be blessed with a son, Hidimbi. On the morning they left, much was said, but I had ears only for that one word of Bhima's, beloved. Through my heart bird, the arrow of that word. Through my heart bird, the arrow of that word. Draupadi. As I've said already, one of the things that sort of drew me to Draupadi's story was the time before she became the Draupadi we all know, the young woman who was a scholar and a poet, who comes alive in Pratibha Rai's Yajnaseni. And equally, the Draupadi who is deeply in love with Krishna, and this is not a platonic friendship that we are given to believe it was. Says Queen Prishati to Draupadi, put away your quill. Put away that parchment, put away your quill. Scriptures and poems are of no use to women. Cast aside your coarse garments, drape yourself in these silks, softer than deer skin. Try on these pearls, more lustrous than the moon. Put away that parchment, put away your quill. Mark my words, daughter, you won't go far with this life of the mind. Says Draupadi to Sakhi Nitambani, am I not crazy already? Be my eyes and tell me what Krishna is like, I implore. And you say you daren't risk it. What if I do and you lose your mind, you ask, refusing to humor me. But Sakhi, am I not crazy already? Look, it's the third night in a row that mother has found me sleepwalking through the garden, muttering over and over, are his feet really like lotus buds? Gandhari. I was fascinated again by who Gandhari was before she married Dhritarashtra, why she chose to blindfold herself subsequently, how she handled her state of self-imposed blindness, and the war too, the war in which she lost all her sons, the devastation not very different from what we are seeing today. Says Gandhari to her friend, can my eyes take the light? In last night's dream, hill blue like the arch of an eyebrow. in last night's dream, hill blue like the arch of an eyebrow. Sakhi, I remember the day as if it were yesterday. I was watching a peacock, the outspread of his wings, the blue glisten of his neck in the singing rain, when you came running. Princess, you have been deceived, the man is blind. Only that morning you had lined my eyes with coal. A princess without coal in her eyes is no princess. Sakhi, I did what good wives do. I walked in his shoes. And what if you had been blind, princess? Would he have walked in yours? 100 sons I bore him and 1 daughter, and I know not their faces, dear Sakhi, except what I see with my fingers, but mine, unlike his, is an imperfect seeing, since I came to it so late. My fingers do not see the blue-hued hills, nor do my ears pick up the tilt of Duryodhana's head. And to think, Sakhi, that he sees it all the way I did that peacock singing in the rain. Oh, there are days when I long to undo the knot just to know Dushala's smile. But what keeps you, princess? I wonder, Sakhi, can my eyes take the light? Will the world take color and shape? Will you line my eyes with coal again? Sakhi, will I see even less than I do now? I'll end with a poem from the Kunti sequence based on Bhairappa's novel Parva, in which there isn't a mention of sage Kindama cursing Pandu to a life of celibacy, nor of sage Durvasa's womb, thanks to which Kunti is able to invoke the gods and bear their children. What we do know is that Pandu cannot father a child, and he's anxious to produce an heir to the throne, and persuades then Kunti to enter into Niyoga with members of a clan called the Devas. Her only goal must be to conceive sons by them, and as soon as that goal is attained, she must return to Pandu. So Kunti finds herself falling deeper and deeper in love with a Deva man, and this poem is, I'll conclude with that. Says Kunti to her friend, where Maruda comes from. Where Maruda comes from, sweet-scented flowers bloom through the year. Blue-necked peacocks dance day long. Squirrels grow fat on luscious jackfruit. Rivers never run dry. And a woman can take any man she wants. Are you listening, Sakhi? Thank you.